And now I feel like we're over too far. I don't know. Guess we'll go there. Okay. Alrighty. It's Monday. I'm a few minutes later than we've been starting at, but we're still technically not late. Start time's technically not till 2. Technically. So we are back working on our needle felting along with Bob Ross. We have been following along with Season 3 Joy of Painting for some time now. We are finally on the last tutorial of Season 3, Peaceful Waters. This was one where Bob was sort of doing a Q&A thing where people wrote in to the show about they were having trouble doing certain techniques, and he had Steve slowing down the technique and trying to over-exaggeratedly demonstrate it. So this one feels a little winter in the back, fall in the front. That's just the way Steve did it, so this is where we're going. We left off yesterday working on our mountains. That's where we are going to pick up today. We have the tutorial we have the link to the tutorial in the chat. We're going to go ahead and pin that for anybody that wants to see that uninterrupted in full, larger, and with audio on it and stuff. So there is that. Alright, I'm going to turn our mat here. And I've got our water at the ready. Piece of fuzz stuck to my face. Okay. We've got our scissors on standby if we need them. Alrighty. Let's see, is it gonna be, yeah, it's gonna be a water kind of day. Don't have enough friction. You don't want to saturate it if you need a little bit of water. Just like a drop is enough. I know it's not going to seem like your hand's very wet. You don't want your hand very wet. You want just enough. To just, slightly increase the friction on your hand if you want to do the rolling thing. You don't have to do the rolling thing. It's just something I do. I don't know why I started it, but I did. And I like to overlap my chunks of color that come in. I feel like it's less issues with like little thin gaps in between. But then again, I don't have the greatest aim, so sometimes it just helps make sure that I've got everybody lined up where I want them. I use acrylic yarn as my fiber of choice. Traditionally it's roving, but whatever fiber you can use, really. We have needle felted polyfill before. That was interesting. That we had that as the core of our figurine that we did for the husband's Christmas gift. That was interesting. But it did save me a bunch of fiber for other things. So sorry, it's a real bad allergy day here. For whatever reason. Just making sure we're good and attached here. I saw a small thin spot that got missed. Sometimes the water helps me make the fluff a little bit more workable. Again, you don't want it wet. You just want the slightest bit just to put a little bit of friction there to help smooth it out, because sometimes this yarn is so silky soft that it just glides across my hand when I've fluffed it and it's not doing what I want it to do. Not a bad problem to have, but alright, I think that's good there now. Okay, and we are sideways at the moment. I do sort of apologize for that, but I need to be able to see where I'm putting this sharp needle. And there seems to be like a lot of, I don't know, like stigma around turning your art. And I don't know why. Turn it. Why torture yourself over not being able to get the right angle? For frig's sake, turn it. I don't know why people seem to think there's some unwritten rule. Heck, turning it upside down can help you sometimes get proportions better. So we've turned upside down a few times, and sideways, and diagonal, and we're gonna keep doing it. Do I need to get him? Do I need to get him? I can't tell if that's the base felt poking through or if that is just the way the light is hitting. I'm tempted to leave it be. Suzu, you want to go with Dad?
Come on, buddy.
Or is it too hot for you? Has he been out at all today?
Yeah.
Okay.
He got outside time earlier.
There's times where he just wants to sit there and look out the door because he's nosy, but he doesn't want to actually go out. I don't get it.
I think he's still trained to get something after every trip.
But that wouldn't explain why he doesn't want to go.
Because he only shows up for the thing.
There's plenty of times he lays there and watches you guys outside like he's missing out. But then I try to get him to go and he's like, no. I don't want to go out. He's like, not this time. Still, I think that is a thin spot. I think that spot's just being fussy. And I mean, it can happen. Sometimes you'll get spots that just get a little bit stubborn about filling in. Well, this is a little bit big to slam into here, but I want to make sure that I've covered it this time. That's not that much left. Alright, so how's everybody doing today? You guys doing alright? It's Monday. Okay. So I'm trying to follow the angle of our mountain here. Now I know I said before we were gonna bang through this and then work on the hillside. We'll see how much time we have today. Since I got started a little bit late, life happened. Alright, that's quite a bit of an extra tail there, so I'm just going to take that inwards here. Again, the bottom of this doesn't have to be precise, because we are going to have some trees coming in front of it. Gently, gently, gently. Alright, and we'll just kind of brush that down on the back. So I mean, we're getting there, slowly, but we're getting there. Alright. I still have to get the flamingo painting sealed. That is probably on my list of things to do tonight. I got episode 11 finished. That will go up on the channel this week. Husband is still working on 10. His depression has been a battle between depression and life. Whenever he's been up to working on it, life has happened and we've had to go do other things. Come on, voice. You need to behave. And other times the depression is just not cooperating with him. But he's getting there. So I'm gonna start to work on the painting that I need edited. Maybe tonight. We'll see how life goes after dinner. But I do have the 11 done. Took me longer than I wanted it to, but shit happens. And I'm picky about how I want it edited. Although I didn't think I did too bad, because I started, you know, making steady, quick progress once we completed the current season of Diablo. So I did spend a bit of time doing Diablo stuff, so but that season for us is done. The season doesn't officially end, I think, until August 6th. I'm not sure when the new season starts. We don't know if we're getting the expansion yet. We might. But I don't know. a good chunk of our budget coming up into Christmas after we've just come back from a trip. For fuck's sake. Like, if my voice would stop, that would be great. Well, not like stop working, but if it would behave, not be all snotty from my sinuses draining, that would be super great. But I don't think it wants to behave today. Not much I can do about that. And if it doesn't want to behave, it doesn't want to behave. This hasn't been a bad mountain color. Not too dark. Not too bright. Like, my only options were like black, my dark brown that we use for everything, navy blue, or like this color. And we don't use this color very much. Like, we've used it for a little bit of highlighting on some cabins and stuff, but I feel like we've really underutilized this one. So why not? Might as well. Okay, a little bit more on this guy. And we'll be looking pretty good here. Alright, and then once we get this last little bit filled in, we're gonna come back with our snow, our highlighted snow, and we'll get this side brightened up. And turn this guy into a proper mountain. Have you seen Mimi today?
Your mom did this morning.
Did she get to eat?
She got to eat. She did not get a drink. So your mom had me grab an extra water bowl so we can put one on either end of the porch and hopefully she can get one.
the orange cat that showed up outside right before Nom Noms got hit by a car. He's not fixed. We don't know where he came from. He's been palling around with the female that has been out there that we thought was Nom Nom's girlfriend, who seemed to bring her over. We don't know from where. Is starting to get a little territorial about our front porch. He's not our cat. We don't know where the hell he came from. And as long as everybody got along, we're like, fine, what the fuck ever. But now he's starting to get a little pissy with that female. We're not happy about that. Not sure if we're gonna have to call the pound to come and get his ass. We will see. Last night, late, we decided to run something to the emergency pantry we have in town. And his ass tried to follow us. We had crossed the one street. Fortunately, there wasn't any traffic at that time of night. And we were starting to get a little bit from the house, and we heard meow, 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 and I'm like, the fuck? And we turned around and the orange one's following us. We're like, no, you need to go home. Because if this was normal daytime hours, sir, you would have gotten squished by a car. No. This is not acceptable. Why are you following us? Absolutely not. This is not it. So we had to go back to the house because he wouldn't go back to the house. And then we had to go the back side streets to get there. Because he was being a little brat about it. And he followed us like the whole way there. Looking scared shitless. Doing his lost kitten meow meow. I'm like, buddy, what are you doing? And then on the way home we could hear another animal. Don't know if it was a coyote in the distance or if it was another cat getting into a fight with something else. And I'm like, look, yo, we need to get home and you need to step it up, because then he was dragging his feet on the way home. Like, I had to stop a few feet, several yards from the corner so he didn't try to cross it where there was more traffic. And then he kept walking in the street and then walking on the sidewalk, and then he was dragging his feet following us. I'm like, sir, let's go. We're gonna leave you here. You followed us here, you can follow us home. And then he was making it like a field trip, going in people's yards. I'm like, look, buddy, we don't have time for this. This was not meant to be a field trip. Cannot believe he followed us like that. It's like 11:30 at night and we're like yelling at him. We're like, let's go! We're gonna be waking up the entire neighborhood because you're following us. And dragging your feet. So we're doing the same thing that we did yesterday. We're just grabbing a little bit of fluff and kind of pulling apart our fibers here. So that we can see our mountain color underneath. I don't want this to be solid white. It can have some spots of solid white, but I don't want the whole thing to be solid white. Let's see how we're looking here. Alright, we're not looking too bad. We're getting that put in there. Starting to look like a proper bumped out section. Okay. And this stage might take a couple of passes to get it to where you're happy, and that's okay. This part, less is more until you're good with where you're at. Sometimes you might need to run a finger over your skinny fibers there just to make sure that you've got everybody attached, and you'll be able to tell if they're not all attached. They'll move, they'll slide. And you can always lay it down and then use your needle to scrape your fluff around to help get it into a position that you want it to be in. And, you know, that's just how that's gonna go. that was a loose bit there. And don't forget you want to, pull up off of your fabric mat every so often. More often than not. That might be a little thick, maybe. But we'll see. We'll see how things shake out here. See, that looks super thick and barely made a dent. You never know how the fluff is gonna fluff when you get in there. When you get it in there. That's why it's a lot better to go smaller amounts first. And then come back in and build it up if you're not quite happy with the amount that's there. So this part will take a little bit of time. And like don't super rush it. Take a minute. Take a few minutes. Work through it. Actually spend some time looking at it. Now Steve has a lot more snow. A lot more snow on his mountain. If you want a lot more snow on yours, go for it. I just didn't want that much snow. You okay?
Uh-huh.
Like, I want a little bit, but I didn't want it fully caked in there. I want some of our mountain to shine through here. Gosh, I even thought I was on the edge of that. I was not. That looks good. We're getting there. finally getting there. And, you know, attach it to your happiness of attachment. Like, if you don't want it super nailed down, that's fine. The super nailed down does take a little bit more time. To get all of the pieces there. But if you're not going to go for super attached, I would at least make sure that you're anchored pretty well in a couple spots. Just so it doesn't come loose. Editing me is going to be so mad about that part. Oh goodness. Alright, let's brush down the back. See, you can see our mountains forming on the back. Well, that looks pretty good. Pretty happy with that one. I mean, it's not super snow-caked, but I'm okay with that. Okay. Next mountain. Let's tuck our light back into our bags so we don't get any color contamination here. Summer is making a reappearance here. Unfortunately, it's getting very hot again. It was warm but decent for a little bit there. Now it's getting ugly, icky again. But we'll see. As long as we don't get the nasty heat indexes. But I don't know. The humidity was really starting to go up last night. Which is weird because it didn't used to be humid here in the summer. And lately it has been. Like, it would be hot, but it'd be like baking a potato hot, like, but now it's like, whoa, it's like swampy hot. Which I don't understand. No, Momo, you just came in. It's not time yet. You literally just came in, my guy. I don't even think it's been a half hour.
Nope.
What's the matter? Is Zuzu in his bed or something? I can't twist to see.
No.
Buddy, you just came in.
Lay down, buddy.
It's not
That
time.
time earlier.
Did he potty?
I just ate something toasted with a certain something on it that he likes. Yeah.
I don't have any food, my guy. Do you need to smell it? It's not food. Fluff is not food. Ooh, come back here. Hold on. Oh, okay. He doesn't always believe us. Alright, so this is our last bit in here. Well, not our last bit, but our last mountain that we are working through. And we'll see how we go. We're working on our last shadowy side. We're going to put our mountain base in first. Okay. Ugh, it is icky warm in here already. We may have to put that fan back on in the bathroom. Try to encourage some of the cold air in the other end of the house to drift this way. Because ick. So I'm trying to follow I'm trying to follow our mountain line. The shape of this one's not making it easy. Well, gee, whose fault is that? Yeah, I know it's my fault, but I also wasn't expecting it to be that fussy. But here we are. Okay. So we'll get this guy worked into here. This one I might just have to just fill it in any which way I can get it filled in. Because I mean, we're gonna have the shadow color over it. So shadow color will hopefully end up doing the heavy lifting here. We will have to see. That might be... Is that a thin spot though, or is that just the white? Now I might have to come back in with the white and clean up that edge there, because this guy sits behind him. We'll see though. We'll have to see about that. Okay. Mountain color into the bag. We're not completely done with it, but we do need to do our shadow next. And then once we're done with the shadow, we should be done with the sky color. And I'll be able to put that piece back up on the wall for this session, for that bag. All right. Let's see. All right, so real wispy, real pulled apart here. I want it real stringy. If you want yours a little more solid, then that's how you want yours. I don't want full on dead of winter back here though. So I'm gonna try to have a little bit more mountain poking through than Steve's got going on up there. But I'm also going to be a little bit slow in building up our color. Alright, so I'm not really going to be able to take that sideways. So tell you what, I will take that back up. I just didn't have a good angle to try to flip it down to here. So that's okay. I'm just trying to make sure I've got all the little loose ends tucked in there, because we kind of had a all over the place moment there. That section of the mat wants to keep bubbling up, and you know, that's fine. I do put these mats through their paces. We definitely do. Creating little figurines, we are not. Once in a while we will. And there's nothing wrong with creating the figurines. It's just not normally my thing. I tend to get frustrated with it because I'm not good at proportions. It is not one of my strengths. So I do have a bit of a line here. That's fine. I'll come back in with a little bit more white and we'll take care of that. Because this is supposed to be sitting in front anyhow. So we are good. Just pulling apart our fiber here. It's hard to see what I'm doing because it's so pulled apart and so thin. And it just kind of slowly materializes out of nowhere as we are tapping in here. Okay. There's no way I can do that and keep my angle, so I'm just gonna snip that. So I'm trying to hold on to my angle here. As much as we can. Gosh darn it. Okay. So. We'll get that into there. I'm gonna brush down our back there. Alright, we're looking pretty good. Pretty good. I will fix up this section when we get back into the white. I think we're done with that color, so I'm gonna set that one to the side. That's not gonna go back in our palette bucket right now. Alright. So I'm going to turn this guy again in the opposite direction. It's helping me to see and also helping me to keep our angle. Because we don't have brush strokes to get the point across here, so I'm using our snow direction. to try to get the angle across. And I'm also trying to use the angle that our fiber is going in at. Is it working? I don't know. Maybe. Maybe. Alright, so I'm just kind of trying to move that fluff over a little bit because I wasn't sure if I was quite over enough. So hope everybody's weekend was well and that you enjoyed it. Whatever it was you did, even if you did nothing at all. Sometimes just being able to do nothing at all on your weekend can be glorious. Alright. Yeah, see, I've got a little bit of a seam there because I didn't quite get it over far enough. So, it's not something to panic about, but we are going to fix it. And to fix that, we just need to get some more fluff here. And we are going to come over a little bit further. We'll clip our cloud a little bit. Well, we're going to try to fix it. It seems to want to go back into that spot. I might have to exaggeratedly come over. Sometimes you'll get sections of felt that will do that. Or maybe it's entirely operator error. That is also possible. I'm not going to pretend it's not. And I am the one piloting the fluff. We'll see if this is enough to make that happy. It might be. We might have come over enough now. Alright. Let's see how we're looking. Look, you can even see the highlights on some of it. That's fun. Alright. Okay, that's better. Alright. Oh, what what's going on with this piece. I don't like that piece of fuzz. We've got plenty more fuzz to choose from. So we will. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do do do. All right. We're closing in on our mountain completion, or at least the base color. Now, we could have just thrown the base color in here all at once and then figured out the light and the shadows all at once, like all shadows, all light, without switching back and forth. You can do that if you want to, but I think it kind of worked out a bit better this way. Do 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 do. I need to remember to schedule stuff on YouTube tonight. Maybe we'll do that. Instead of editing, but scheduling won't take that long. Perhaps we'll seal the flamingos tonight. And then while that is drying, we'll work on editing and scheduling for YouTube. So it takes a few minutes on each video because you gotta check all the boxes, make sure everything got exported for the week. Put all your tags in, although I've started a text doc with most of the tags and I just kind of adjust them based on what it was. Put in your description box text and then schedule the stuff. I hope you've scheduled the right time, that your brain wasn't on autopilot while you were doing it and it just picked a time for whatever. Okay. We're getting there. Slowly but surely. What's everybody been up to? Do you guys dabble in painting, needle felting? What's your jam? Do you have a jam? Are you into everything, trying to find something that you really love? Well, it seems like it's taking forever for this tiny little blip here. And sometimes it does feel like that. Kind of depends on how big of a section of fiber you're trying to tap in. Sometimes it depends on what you're using as your canvas and how it's cooperating. I want to put my fan on so bad, but you guys won't be able to hear me if I do. So that sucks. That, and we'll probably have fluff flying everywhere. My fan creates just enough background noise that it is problematic when we are live streaming. Grabbing a bit more fluff. So I'm going to carefully disentangle my feet here. Sit in a different position for a little bit. Okay. So we just have this little bitty section that we're gonna need to fill in here. Okay. So I'm going to start with this section down in here. And I'm going to fill that in. And then I've got one spot further up, like up here. It might need one more little bit of fluff. Kind of depends on how this fills in down here. I'll know in just a minute. Have to pop this guy off the mat. And I want to take a look and see how we've filled in here. Alright, number one, that piece didn't look like it was really fully tacked down there. That might be good enough there. Okay. So, we're gonna get our mountain color, and I'm gonna tuck that back into its bag. I don't think we're using the mountain color again. I think that color is done. So we're gonna grab some of our white now. Just little bits, and then we want to pull it apart here. And then figure out where you want it to lay. And go from there. Sometimes if you come at it from an angle, you can move some of your fluff around a little bit. Just a little bit more in there, and I know you're like, well, why are you touching it? You were done with it. Well, we were done with it, and then when we added in the mountain next door, we kind of went a little bit over, and just like the way the two connected. It just kind of created a little bit of a space there that just seemed a little naked, so just want to fill that in a bit. Alright. That's better. Okay. Now we'll get back to work on highlighting this other guy here. Okay. So just gonna find an anchor point here and then start to tap this guy in as we make our way down here. So we might get started on the background of the foothills. Now I'm not gonna do the background of the foothills in white, because it's gonna be a little bit shadowed because of the trees that are gonna be on there. You're not really gonna see any, or if you do see any of it, it will be very little ground action back in there. So I'm gonna go with this seafoam blue. It's a little white, it's a little bit blue, and it's a little bit green to kind of pick up maybe the shadow and coloring of the trees that are going to be on top of it. Where it will just distort the color slightly. I'm not happy with that. We kind of lost the snow on the peak there and on the edge. So I want to come back in. And just give a little more attention to that edge in there. let's get our next bit of fluff here. And start to work that guy in. Hard to see it, but it is there. He's just super, super fine on the background. And being stubborn about attaching, it would seem. Another bit here. This one looks a little bit thicker. Should be able to see that one. I would imagine. Alright, so this side's a little more snowy than I really wanted it to be, but I think that kind of makes sense that it is. So it's kind of that back exposed side. Nothing really sheltering that too much. Because when we put the trees in, the trees are going to be in front of it, but this is going to be way behind the trees. Got a couple little tiny strands in there that don't want to fully get grabbed by the needle. I think I'm just gonna admit defeat on those, and they'll just have to be a little bit loose. But that is not bad. We can definitely see our sides of our structures here for sure. I don't think we're quite done with our white yet, so white's gonna go back into our bucket of fun, essentially, and I don't know, I think that color can go back on the fluff wall. So this is called Blue Sea Foam, and I'm gonna use it as the background of our hills, and I know it looks a little green. I get that. But we're going to be having like teal trees coming in here because that was the closest I could get. Now, Steve's not going to do this, but I am. So I'm not going to advance the tutorial just yet. because he just kind of throws the trees in there and kind of just lets the trees do their own thing. And when you've got the liquid white down, you can get away with that because it kind of looks like fog and snow and mist or whatever you want between the trees. With the fluff, it doesn't quite do that when you're just using the tree color. So we're going to have to sort of add a step to make it work. Okay. All right. So we're just gonna work this in here. Now we could start on the other side. Trying to figure out. Okay, so I've got that the top edge there. This was just my horizon line for the mountains. And then I've got a shorter foothill here. Okay, so we're gonna work on our back section here first. So I've got our piece of tape kind of just on the edge of our pen line here that I was using to try to keep our edges straight. That didn't really work on the other side for reasons that I don't understand, but okay. It worked on the thicker one. Or at least the thicker one didn't have too much fuss in. It might just be curved on that side. I might just not fight it. And trim it as best as I can. Maybe for some reason that corner just pulled in. I don't know. I feel like this whole section over here is pulling in. And that's fine, it's gonna pull in. Because you're tightening the base fibers. As you're stabbing these other colors in here. I get it? No. Still there. Cat hair. I could tell because it was a different color. But, you know, as you're stabbing through, you're pulling all of your fibers together. And that includes your base fiber of your felt. Might have just been the way this sheet of felt was made. Entirely possible. That was a weird noise. There's nobody at the front door, is there? It sounded like the screen door shifted.
Nope, nothing.
Maybe it was the spring.
Could have been.
That spring's not been happy recently. Alright. So we are in our block of solid color here, so that's gonna take a little bit to get through. Just how it is. Was that Momo?
Just shifting.
Sounded like he whined.
I didn't hear it.
Alright. Just gonna get our color popped into here. So because we went a little bit lower off the bat, we've got to come back in and fill in this section here. And this is a new to me color. This is the first time we're using this color. In any of our pieces. Man, those brakes sounded bad. Mr. Dump Truck. Why? It's always a little nerve-wracking hearing large vehicle brakes squealing. Especially after we just narrowly missed getting hit by a dump truck. We as in the house. Alrighty. We'll fill this guy in here. This was the color I was originally thinking of doing the snow shadow with, but it's not quite blue and it's not quite green. It's kind of somewhere in between. I wasn't sure if it was quite gonna work as our mountain shadow. It's alright, I think our sky blue worked out pretty well there for that. So not as smooth as I would have preferred this piece to be, but at the same time, it's not terrible, and we are gonna have other trees lined up on it. So I don't really know how much of our edge there's really going to be too visible. That is not a seam that I am happy with, though. That needs some work. That's just not it. We can do better than that. We've done better than that before. Alright, so let's see if we can get this edge cleaned up a bit here. And we came up a little bit higher still, but I kind of feel like that's what we had to do to fix that seam there where these two colors were meeting. I'm still not really sure what I'm gonna do with our trees here. Like, do I want to do all the way up from the base, maybe? Because it's gonna be all the same color tree in this section. So I might just come up from the base here. We'll just have to make sure that we are tall enough. So on this row of trees, I might have to work from tip to base instead of base to tip, just to ensure that we are good. As I am stabbing the tape. Stabbing the tape happens sometimes, especially if you're me. Okay. Alright, that might be a little bit better there. Alright, that's a little bit smoother of a connection. Alright, and like I said, we are going to have trees on top of this, but at the same time I want it to be right, so I don't have to worry about weirdness happening. Oh, that's little. Little's in the window, watching the birds, and that bird feeder's been mighty active today. Birds were singing up a storm. I never even realize she's in that window until she starts making noises. We don't always open the curtain on that window, especially this time of year. Trying to keep as much sun out as we can. So it gets hot enough in here. Without more help from outside. Okay, so when you use the bigger, thicker pieces of fluff, it will take a bit more stabbing into it. To make sure it's all attached there. Alright, I think I need another little bit in there. Just because that looks a little thin. And I'm afraid that when I start to put the trees in, as the trees come in, that might get thinner and turn into more of a issue that I'm gonna have to stop and correct anyway. So since we see it, we're just gonna work on fixing it now, or trying to fix it now. And hopefully it won't be an issue later. Alright, that looks a little better. I mean, it doesn't look great. It looks a little messy in here, but we're gonna get the other trees put in, and that should clear up any of the major messy. Any of the two major excuse me, thank you, of the two major messiness there. Okay, I'm feeling like we didn't take enough Benadryl earlier. That, or I'm just feeling how hot it is in here with this t-shirt on. Did you put the stuff in the dryer?
Yes.
Okay. Remind me, I need to check that vent trap later.
Okay.
I'll explain it later, just to remind me to. All right. So now gonna go through here and we'll get this guy tapped into here. So this is gonna flow from here and go all the way straight across. Or at least that's the idea. This back row of trees is going to go from edge to edge. And then we're going to have another section of trees that are going to be a slightly different color. All up in there. Okay, that looks pretty good there. Yeah, I'm so mad that side curved in. There's nothing I can really do about it at this point. Okay. Excuse me. All right. We'll get our next section of color popped into here, and this is where we've hit like a slow section because we need to get this block of color put in. Now I could have omitted this and just did the trees, but then they would have been then they would have needed to be packed so tightly so that our gray didn't shine through. I don't think they would keep their treeness, shall we say. I feel like we would just kind of lose them. Again, this is personal preference. If you just want to go at it and do the rows of your trees in here, in your tree color, and just pack them super tight, that's up to you. But I know sometimes I don't get everything put into position exactly how I want it. So this just kind of gives me a little extra wiggle room. It's sort of like the reasoning behind why I put dirt down when we're doing grassy fields, even if he hasn't done any dirt. It's because I never quite know how it's going to go in. Okay. So we've almost got the edge filled in here. Almost. Okay. So I figure if we get our edge put in, then we'll have a good jumping off point. For the rest of this section. And we'll be in somewhat decent shape. Alright, I do want to put just a little bit more over here. I kind of feel like we need it. I mean, maybe we don't, but I don't know, I'm not fully content with how that is sitting there. On that edge. And I want to make sure I'm happy with it, especially before we move on to adding the trees in. Now this same color is going to be going in this section too. But I'm not going to put that in until we get these trees in up in this section. All right. So we do have quite the hill to build here. Quite the landmass that we are working on. And it's not a super fast medium, at least not for me. I like to fuss with things a little more than I probably should. But this medium lets me fuss with things. It's a little bit challenging. I'm stuck. You can definitely tell it's getting warm in here when those Ziploc bags start sticking to you. Alright. Gonna stretch out here. Whew, for just a bit. And while we are stretching, I'm gonna lift this guy off of the mat. We're gonna turn the mat. And we're gonna take a look at where we're at here. Not looking too bad. I mean, this color is a little bit hard to see on the camera, but you can kind of see it there. So it's gonna follow this line all the way across. But it's getting really super warm in here, so I think we might stop a little early today. I do apologize for that, but I am getting uncomfortably warm with all the lights on and everything. And next Sunday is another day. Like, we don't have to get a certain amount done today. So I think we will pause there and pick this back up next week. Or Sunday, not really next week, but Sunday. Okay. So no extra stream this week, I don't think. I've got some things I want to do, so yeah, probably nothing extra this week. Birthday's coming up. That should be next week. Oh, hang on, I can't click the calendar on that screen. Yeah, birthday is next week. Birthday falls on Coral Island Day, so we might try to do maybe, we might try to start a little bit earlier and do like a little extra Coral Island action that day. But yeah, I will be back on the 1st with Coral Island. So you guys enjoy your week. Again, sorry for the shorter stream, but it's really warm in here and it's distracting me. So, yeah, I need a fan. You guys have a good one. Don't forget to follow the social links down below. And until next time.